Hello, this is Marla Dalton, Executive Director and CEO of the National Foundation for Infectious Diseases, or NFID. Welcome to our final episode of the Schaffner Report. The US has taken another big step forward in responding to the COVID pandemic, with vaccines now approved for children aged 6 months and older. Many parents and healthcare professionals have been eagerly awaiting this development, while others are still on the fence. With me today is NFID Medical Director, Dr. William Schaffner, to help us understand the implications for parents and healthcare professionals alike. So thanks again for joining us, Bill.
Good to be with you, Marla.
So first, Bill, let's talk about the need. We know COVID-19 is typically more severe in older populations. So do infants and young children really need to be vaccinated? And if so, why?
Well, Marla, the answer is resoundingly yes. Now, we've all heard that children are less affected than are, for example, older adults with COVID, and that remains correct. But less affected does not mean zero. Let me give you just a few numbers. Since the beginning of this COVID pandemic, over 2 million cases have occurred in children aged 6 months to 4 years. And more importantly, there have been 20,000 hospitalizations. I said 20,000 hospitalizations, and over 200 children have died of COVID who are age 6 months to 4 years of age. You know, for each one of those parents, that's 100%. And it's a tragic event for any child of that age to die of a potentially preventable infectious disease. So going forward, the American Academy of Pediatrics, along with the CDC and individuals such as myself, an infectious diseases doctor, we're all strongly advocating that parents get vaccinated, get their children now 6 months to 4 and 5 years of age vaccinated. Let me tell you about something else. The CDC did an interesting exercise. You know, we vaccinate against a whole array of different diseases routinely in infancy and young childhood. So the CDC went back in history and they looked at how many deaths occurred on an annual basis from the diseases against which we now routinely vaccinate every child in the United States. And you know, COVID causes more deaths than any of those other illnesses, diphtheria, polio, you name it. And so putting that into context, it's clear that children, young children, should now be vaccinated. And I'll get in a plug for those older children 5 to 11 also.
Bill, those are some really sobering statistics. The question that we receive frequently already is, what about those children who already had COVID? Do they still need to be vaccinated?
That's a very important point and was clearly discussed in the CDC's Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices. There, the answer, perhaps surprisingly to parents, is once again firmly yes. And why is that? And that's because children who had COVID and were vaccinated were clearly better protected against subsequent COVID infections and hospitalizations than children who had COVID but who were not vaccinated. So vaccine seems to provide, if you will, the icing on the cake. It really provides a much greater and thicker layer of protection for those young children. So even if your young child has experienced COVID in the past, yes, take them to their pediatrician or family doctor and have them vaccinated.
Very interesting. So there are now 2 approved vaccines for young children starting at age 6 months. What should parents and healthcare professionals know about these new options? And, is one better than the other?
The two are equally recommended. The two major companies, Pfizer and Moderna, have each produced a vaccine. They are a little bit different. The Pfizer vaccine is a 3-dose vaccine. The Moderna vaccine is a 2-dose vaccine, according to current recommendations. Both of these vaccines have been carefully altered so that they are appropriate for this age group. Lots of studies went in to make sure that the dose in both of these vaccines, less than the dose given to adults, for example, or even older children, is appropriate for those ages, documenting that these vaccines are safe and effective. I will point out, although there are 2 vaccines available and the intent is to distribute them to many pediatricians and family doctors so that parents can bring their children into a comfortable environment that they're used to receive the vaccines, I think that most practitioners will have one of these vaccines, one or the other. So whichever one is available, that's the one you want your child to get.
Absolutely. So, Bill, how do we know that these vaccines will be effective against the Omicron variant and other new variants among this younger age group? And the other question we received, Bill, is can these vaccines be given safely at the same time as other routine vaccines?
So first, we have good data that they will be effective against Omicron because both of these vaccines were studied during the Omicron era. And in laboratory studies, it's clear that the antibodies, the protective proteins that are developed in the bloodstream, do neutralize the Omicron variant. So we anticipate that in the real world, when they start to be used, they will indeed be effective against Omicron. So, and that's very good news. And then the other thing is, obviously, many of these young children will be eligible for other vaccines, and the CDC and the American Academy of Pediatrics have both given us the green light. Yes, if your child is also eligible or on schedule for another vaccine at the same time, they can be given simultaneously.
That's great from a convenience and a practical perspective. So more on the practical side, Bill, what side effects might parents expect and what should they do if their child experiences side effects from the vaccines?
Yes, and there will be some side effects. Every vaccine has side effects, and of course, every parent knows that sore arms can result, perhaps a little swelling and redness. Young infants can get a little fussy. They may not feed as well for a day or two and just feel unwell. And there'll be a very small percentage of them that actually develop a fever, as is also the case with other vaccines. If there's any concern on the part of the parent, we always say, please contact your provider. They're used to this. They give vaccines to so many children, and they know how to manage these side effects when they come up. And usually they can be managed very readily.
Great. So, Bill, what should we be saying to those parents who still have concerns about vaccinating young children against COVID?
And there will be many of them. You know, the surveys say that about a fifth of parents have been waiting for the release of these vaccines in young children, and they're going to be bringing their children into their pediatrician or family doctor just as quickly as possible to get vaccinated. But there'll be a much larger group that still has questions and concerns or is holding back a little bit and having a wait and see attitude. And of course, we always say, please talk to your pediatrician, talk to your family doctor. They are there for you all the time, day in and day out, ready to care for your children and ready to speak with you and to answer your questions and provide you a level of comfort and reassurance that vaccinating your children is the right thing to do. We want to protect them against COVID. So talk to your provider.
So we're all in this together. Bill, before we sign off, I'm going to give you an opportunity. Are there any other final words of wisdom you'd like to leave the audience with?
Well, maybe a couple. The first is that just think about it. The equation is that the risks of COVID vastly exceed the risks of side effects of the vaccine. So always put that into your equation. Remember, the COVID virus is really the bad guy out there. And as I like to say, disease bad, vaccines good. The other is, it's very exciting. Now we have a means of preventing really the most serious aspects of COVID, ranging from 6 months of age all the way up to 100 years of age and even older. And it's a very exciting time here in the United States to have that broad band of protection available to our population. And I hope everyone takes advantage of it. This virus is not going to disappear. We've moved from pandemic to endemic. That is, the virus is kind of smoldering in our population. We're developing a truce with this virus, figuring out how we can manage our lives as successfully as possible and keeping at the same time the damage done by this virus to a minimum. I will tell you, vaccines will continue to be important in this. They will be foundational. So please, everyone, stay tuned, because yes, I anticipate that there will be even more new vaccine recommendations in our future. You know, we vaccinate ourselves against influenza on an annual basis. We shouldn't be entirely surprised that we might have to do something similar against this other quite nasty respiratory virus.
Absolutely, Bill. And Bill, thanks again, as always, for your very valuable insights. And thank all of you for tuning in to the final episode of the Schaffner Report. We are excited to launch a new NFID podcast series next month, which will feature the wisdom and insights from many leading experts in the field. We hope you will continue to join us for these undoubtedly stimulating conversations. Have a great day.